Hello and welcome to the Scholar Progenium. Today we're going to be talking about how to collect the Finns in bolt action. Before I started my own Finnish army, I had a ton of questions, and I'm going to try and tell you everything that I learned when putting together this force in this video today. We're going to talk about everything from the models and purchase decisions that I decided to make down to the paints that I used to get this colour scheme. So let's find out more. Let's start off talking about the infantry. This is the core of the army, and for me it was a big decision because I didn't really want to have a load of the metal Finnish infantry models because it would be quite a lot of the same poses. You only get 9 in a box and the cost was going to be quite prohibitive for a big force. So I did loads and loads of research to find out what kind of uniforms Finnish infantry have, what kind of equipment they used, and this, that and the other, and this allowed me to make a decision on a route to go down instead. Now, a couple of things that I considered but didn't go for, but would look really good in the army were the Russian winter veteran box. Now, the reason why I like these guys is because I had an idea in my head when I was going to start the Finns that I'd love a full snowsuit army, but again, the metal models are the only ones that are available, and it was just going to be too cost prohibitive. There are some other third-party companies out there which do metal ski troops or snowsuit infantry for World War II. But again, I was nervous about spending loads of money on infantry that might not scale up with support teams. It might look a little off. And again, the sculpts, there was just going to be a lot of the same sculpt, which would have not looked that aesthetically interesting. So I knew I was really looking for a plastic box set, and essentially what I settled on was the German Blitzkrieg infantry, or Blitzkrieg German infantry from Warlord. Now that's the models you see before you with a couple of slight adjustments, and settling on this did mean there were a couple of compromises, but I was happy with those, and I'll explain that now. So, of course, as you can see, there's a lot of poses, and I've got 2 boxes of these because you can build your support teams with the kneeling models. You can build your snipers out of this, and you're going to want a variety of options. If you're just going to buy a box of 30 and add some Carcapuccios, yeah, you can do that to start off with, but you're going to be stuck with the sort of LMG loadouts and SMG loadouts that you initially build. You're not going to have much flexibility. You're kind of going to be locked into a list. And for me, I just wanted a bit more flexibility. I really wanted to enjoy using the Finns and have a full force of them. So I picked up 2 box, 60 infantry models. That's loads of options, loads of flexibility, just for as long as I'm playing this force. And you can see here that there's loads of different poses, loads of little bits of equipment, like ammo belts, ammo boxes. You've got your LMG guys. You've got longer bases that you could build into snipers if you wanted, spotters, that kind of thing. You've got kneeling guys, and you've got loads of different options. All my sergeants look slightly different. Now, I did add a couple of extra bits and bobs. So as you know, Warlords, you probably know, are in the habit of sending you a random sprue of some free models. And so I have accumulated a fair few of these over time. So I had some German, some Russian winter infantry sprues knocking about. So I added a few wool hats and caps to my infantry, just scattered among the masses, just to mix things up a little bit. The helmets that you see and the caps, these are what come in the box. Now, with that in mind, there also is not a Panzerfaust available in the Blitzkrieg box. Obviously, the Germans hadn't invented the Panzerfaust by then. So if you want to have Panzerfaust in your force, and you're probably going to want a couple as options, then again, you're going to need to get your hands on some Panzerfaust, which for some of you may not be a problem at all. I've collected Germans for years, since first edition, so I had plenty of Panzerfaust just on little sprues or knocking about here and there, so that was fine for me. Now, there were 3 compromises that I had to make peace with when I decided to go down this route. The first one was that these guys have Kar 98s. Now, that is a rifle that wasn't really used by the Finns at all. They had loads of German equipment, but Kar 98s, they only ever bought 600 of them for testing. Now, for me, I'm not particularly bothered. They should have really Moss and Nagants, or they had a load of different, they had Italian rifles, loads of stuff. Ironically, one of the few rifles they didn't use were Kar 98s in large numbers. But for me, these could be personal weapons, and they just represent a rifle. I don't think it takes away in any way. Now, one of the advantages of a plastic kit is that you could take the time to put in loads of Russian Moss and Nagants, but I don't think the uniform would match up as well, and the parts don't match up as well. You'd have to fiddle a lot with green stuff and so on and so forth. And that is something I found, because I did experiment with it a little bit with the spare sprues that I had, but in the end I thought it just looked way better having the uniform, so to speak, and it all just fitted together nicely, and the rifle just blends in, and no one's really going to notice or call that out. It just doesn't matter. Now, that was the major compromise of the build. The next two are a lot more minor. The first one I'm going to talk about whilst we're on the topic of weapons is the LMG. Now, this is the MG34, and the Finns did get their hands on loads of MG34s. They used it widely. However, they did also have a domestic LMG that was magazine fed, and that is the LMG that's available on the metal Finnish, like legit models that Warlord make. But for me, I wasn't that bothered by that. I'm happy to use MG34s. I like the look of the belt-fed weapon, and I think the loaders look really cool as well, so that was an easy decision to make. The third compromise is almost unnoticeable on the tabletop, but I will point it out to you guys now, and that is that although these kits, the uniform is the exact same uniform as the Finns used, it's the M32 uniform, the Germans in the Blitzkrieg had this gas mask pouch on the front of the model, and that gas mask pouch is not something that the Finns bought with the kit. However, when they bought, masses of the M32 uniform from the Germans. But for me, I'm not that bothered by that. You can't see it when you're looking at them on the tabletop because the rifles get in the way and the kit get in the way. And also, in my headcanon, soldiers, when they see a Gucci bit of kit, they all want to get their hands on it. So maybe one of them in my particular platoon got himself a nice map bag, and then they all wanted this map bag, and they've all got themselves a little map bag on the front of their uniform. So that's what it is in my mind. And as you can see on this guy, you don't actually have to paint it, and you basically can't notice it at all if you don't paint it. So that is one option. Just don't paint the map bag, or don't paint the gas mask pouch. In terms of other infantry, I did pick up a box of Carcapuccio. Now, these are the metal sculpts from Warlord, the ski troops, and I absolutely love these guys. With a couple of different heads that they come with in the blister pack, they all look quite different. They're armed with SMGs and LMGs, and they're just a really cool model that give the Finns that aesthetic. You've got to have a few snowsuits in there for sure. Next up, we have the support teams, and here I have a little bit of a tip for you. I wanted to continue the aesthetic of having the snowsuits and the idea of elite units fighting in the woods and forests of Finland. So I wanted more greatcoats in there and that kind of thing as well. And the Finnish units that are available as part of the Finnish faction, the support teams there, they're wearing more of the M32 sort of standard uniform, and it just wasn't what I was looking for in my army. And so if you're the same as me and you want a bit more of that, then I highly recommend going for the German Hair Infantry Winter support teams, and that's what you see before you now. And I think these guys really fit in with the Finns, and you get the kit that you can use for the Finns. So I've got a sniper there with his spotter, I've got a flamethrower team, and I've also got a Panzerfaust. But they're all wearing these great coats. They've got the snowsuits, they've got the snow covers on their helmets. The spotter has this cool little bit of sort of webbing that he's got on the front of his helmet. They're just cool sculpts, so I thought I'd point you in that direction because that's the direction I decided to go in when I was spending my own money. And again, I think when you price it up, the sort of format that they come in for the Finns might be a little bit more expensive. Next up, we have a Howitzer. Now this thing is from the finish section of the website, and the metal sculpt is really good. It's actually much better than most Warlord support crew metal sculpts. The faces don't look anywhere near as Ark of the Covenant-y and sort of all melty. Much better quality, I have to say. Probably the best support unit sculpt that I own. And I really like the individuality as well. You've got the guy on the sight, you've got the guy loading it, you've got the guy who can pull the trigger, and you've got the officer there. Really, really nice little model, and highly recommended it. It was a bit of a difficult build. The Howitzer didn't want to go together that well, but it's probably a lot less painful than some of the weapons that I've built from Warlord. Their metal support weapons can often be a nightmare. For my officer, I wanted him to stand out, and I didn't want to spend money on an individual officer, so I just used a great coat from a German winter infantry sprue. That's something I had knocking about. But the arm is from the Finnish, the Blitzkrieg, sprue, and as you can see, that just fits together seamlessly, no problem whatsoever. Finally, to round out things, I'll just talk you through the paints that I used. Now, in terms of primer, I just went into a hardware store and I'd saved a couple of photos of uniforms that were from a museum on my phone that I looked up online, and I just found the right colour primer that matched the wool colour. Then, in terms of other paints, the flesh colour is just GW paint, Reichland flesh shade, something like that, with a wash over the top. And then, in terms of the kit, the webbing is English uniform from Vallejo. The ammo tins are German cam dark green from Vallejo. And then I've also got, for the guns, German cam medium brown, but I'm sure you've got a colour of brown that you can use. And then for Panzerfaust, I've always found that German cam beige World War II from Vallejo with a Nuln oil wash just really gives the Panzerfaust that correct shade. So that's what I use. Obviously you may want to use something different, but just if you wanted to order this all online, straightforward enough, that's what I used. Obviously black boots, I'm sure you've got some Abaddon Black or whatever Games Workshop call it these days. So basically guys, that's everything that I learned and thought about over the course of building my Finnish army. So I hope if you're looking to pull the trigger on this, you should really go for it. Treat yourself, get yourself some Finns. They are so fun to use, and hopefully this guide will make it really easy for you to put them together and give you that confidence to make the jump into the glorious world of Finns in bolt action. So I hope you found this video interesting. I hope you found it entertaining. This has been the Scholar Progenium. Thank you very much for your time. Goodbye.